All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this first Talk Time event hosted by the Able Trust. My name is Allison Chase, and I'm the Vice President here at the Able Trust. We're really looking forward to today's Talk Time, which is an opportunity for us to share thoughts and ideas around COVID-19 concerns and as they relate to employment services for people with disabilities. This is the first Talk Time event that we'll be hosting, and it's not going to be an ordinary webinar that most of you are used to attending where the hosts present and you listen. Talk Time is designed to be an interactive program where you are the experts, and the Able Trust is just here to host the webinar and facilitate the discussion. So with that said, hopefully you received the email with topics that we'll be covering today and have had some time to think about your organization and your role so you can share your experiences with everyone else. We also hope that you receive the reminder to download the current version of Zoom and either call in from a phone or make sure your computer has a microphone and a speaker if you're connected to us with audio via your computer. So that way, everyone can easily come off mute and participate in the discussion when you're called on. Soon, I'm going to be handing things over to Guinevere Crum, who's going to run the event today. She'll be hosting as well as kicking things off by posing a few questions and a few polls to get the conversation started. I'm going to be moderating any questions that come in through the Q&A, but I warn you, we definitely encourage you to join the conversation by coming off mute and sharing your comment out loud. I'll be watching for those of you with their virtual hands raised to come off mute so you can ask your question and make your comment to the audience. So now that you know your roles, let me take a minute to explain how you can participate in the program. We're using the Zoom platform and we'll be using the raise your hand feature and the Q&A feature. We will not be using the chat feature. So if you have a question, we encourage you to raise your hand so you can say it out loud or type it into the Q&A section if for some reason you're unable to participate verbally. Guinevere is going to begin Talk Time by asking a question and opening it up to the group. So remember, this is an interactive event. Please don't be shy about sharing your answers, your ideas, and your comments. All you have to do to participate and raise your hand is click on the little raise your hand icon that looks like a high five shown on your toolbar on your webinar screen. Once that I see your hand is raised, I will unmute you and announce your name, indicating you are now invited to speak and share your comments. When you start to speak, first please introduce yourself and tell us what organization you're with before you begin. Also, please keep in mind that you may have muted your own phone and you may need to unmute yourself as well as me unmuting you after you're called on in order to be heard. Once you've finished your comment, you'll be placed back on mute by me and I'll call on the next person to speak. So now that we all know what to do and what everyone's part is, let's go ahead and get the show started. So Guinevere, take it away.
All right, thank you, Allison. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Guinevere Crum, Senior Vice President here at the Able Trust, and I will be your host today for Talk Time. Now, despite the seriousness of today's topic, I will be working to be positive and to make this both an enjoyable and informative process for us all. But please don't mistake that for callousness or lack of awareness. We just want to make this a really good experience and an opportunity for dialogue for everyone. Before we get started, and to accommodate those who are still logging in, we want to start by giving you a very brief update from the Able Trust. Currently, 100% of the Able Trust staff are working remotely. Because our interactions with you all are usually remote in nature anyway, we hope to be one of the areas in your life that doesn't change too much right now. We are currently assessing what we have to offer you other than grant support. We are creating content to be of benefit and trying to be extra efficient in our work with you. That assessment is a lot of what led us to create Talk Time, so that we can talk about what's going on in your world right now. If all goes well today, we expect to host future Talk Times to continue to support your work in our new world, as well as to generate discussion around employment for persons with disabilities as a whole. We definitely believe it's important to maintain human connections in a virtual world. So we hope to keep the dialogue open and provide ways for you to connect with your peers around the state. At the end of the webinar, we will be following up with a survey, and we have plans to make today's Talk Time available, and we encourage you to share those with others. So let's get this started by taking a quick pulse of who has joined us, who's in the room. I appreciate everyone who, if you haven't yet, please introduce yourself on the Q&A. Let us know who you are and the organization you are with. But we have a poll to make this also happen. So we're going to take an overview of who's here. This is going to be a rapid succession of surveys. So answer as quickly as you can. We're only going to take a couple minutes to do all of the surveys just to get a pulse of who is here. So starting off with organization type. If you don't see a category that fits you, please let us know what we missed in the question and answers box. We definitely want to know that you're here. So who's here? Make a selection here. And Allison is going to be looking for everybody to respond there. So just another 5 seconds. Everybody make a selection there. And if there's a description that doesn't apply to you, please click on the other and let us know who that is in the Q&A.
All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Can you see the results?
Not yet.
All right. How about now?
All right, so we have majority are community organizations that include employment placement services. And so this makes great sense. Most of you that are on the call are grantees. And so we're really glad that you're here. We have a few other people that are in a little bit different settings. And so we'll look at that. So go on to the next slide and we have another poll. So what type of setting, I think we need to go on to the next slide actually. What type of setting are you working in? What's reflective of your community? So that next poll, Allison's going to throw up there on the screen. Are you in an urban area, suburban, combination? You might have really large catchment areas with multi-counties that you're delivering services to, or you might be predominantly rural. So let us know who is here. About another 5 seconds for this. Do we have folks voting, Allison?
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're still coming in pretty quick, so I'm going to leave it open for another couple of seconds. All right, I'm going to shut it down.
So a lot of you are in large areas, so you're really responsible for a large catchment area. So that's really important because that means you're going to have a lot of balls that you're juggling, a lot of plates up in the air. So that's very interesting, and certainly urban and suburban areas, but we do have some rural counties as well. So Florida's a really diverse area. So we have another slide and another poll. How is your current climate affecting consumer services? You could be not affected. I have a hard time believing anyone's feeling that way right now, but are you having even more interaction with consumers, or is it less, or you're still adjusting? So those are the choices here. We're looking for just an assessment overall of how you are feeling about this. It's just a few more minutes or seconds really on that poll. And are they coming in, Allison?
Yeah, they are. They're slowing down. I'm just going to give them a couple more seconds.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll.
Isn't it a lovely shot of the beach? We are all ready to be back there, and we will be after our unusual time. So we're going to push the poll forward.
Have you seen the results?
Not yet.
Okay, let me try again.
There we go.
Okay.
So definitely less interaction is happening with consumers. So that is, I'm sure, a point that everybody's reflecting on and really figuring out ways to adjust to that and how to meet that need, because we know it's still a need. And certainly things are still unusual. So we have a final poll to assess who's here. Give us a take on what is happening with your employer outreach and your employer services in general. Are you having more interaction with employers? Is it less? Are you still adjusting? So let us know how this climate is affecting the way that you're interacting with employers. A lot has changed, you know, it seems like each week is very different from the next week. So it may have started off one way and you're now in another spot.
All right, I'm going to close the poll.
So definitely less interaction are happening with employers. So that is something to keep on the radar. How do we navigate that obstacle? And it's certainly understandable, but how do we keep the conversation for disability and inclusion in play as we move forward this month and the next month? So excellent, thank you all. So moving forward, these are our topic areas that we have made suggestions for discussion today. We will be launching another poll, your final poll, in just a moment to select one of these 3 topics you would most like to start today's discussion with. So do you want to start our discussion around the remote nature of your work, which includes challenges related to working personally and with other folks in a remote settings? Any great innovations your organization has discovered through remote work? Or would you like to start our talk around the current crisis issues, which includes how you're balancing new and additional duties related to the crisis, and how you're able to support clients who may be in crisis during the crisis? Or we can start with a discussion around connections, which includes community resources, finding and creating new resources to meet the needs that you're seeing, as well as keeping existing connections with clients and partners. So those are our 3 choices. So give that a thought in just a moment. Now, Allison's going to launch the poll. So what are you most interested in talking about today? That's where we will start our conversation. We are excited to learn from all of you and to help you learn from one another. So identifying the right topic is the first order of business. Remember, if you don't vote here, you get to hear what everyone else wants to hear about. So make your voice heard and make a choice. So we'll give that another 5 seconds. So we have a nice group of individuals that are on the call, and we want to give everyone a chance to share and talk. So we're going to move forward to a selection. Are all those votes coming in?
Make sure everybody's voted if they want to vote. Give you a couple more seconds.
Last call. All right.
All right, here it goes. Oh, we have a tie.
All right, excellent. So if you can publish the poll, we'll be able to see.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
That's okay. There's a lot of webinars happening, and there's a lot of traffic. So we are going to start our conversation about remote working and about connections. So excellent, excellent choices. And we have a tie, which means we have equal opportunity. So let's get going and open that up. We can move to the next slide, which is about remote working. So let's open it up to start talking about what you're doing and what you want to share and what questions you might have of your peers. So remember, if we all only ask questions and don't share the things that we are doing or that we plan to do, then we will end our discussion with a ton of questions and no answers. So it's really important that you share not just your questions, but what steps you're taking and where you're at in addressing our new world and all the challenges that are there. So by sharing your thoughts with your peers around the state and giving them a chance to share some of their approaches with you, we can learn together. You can unpublish that poll there, Allison. We have quite a few people on the call. So when Allison recognizes you and you come off of mute, start with your name, your organization, and then share for about 2 minutes at a time so we can get a chance around to everyone that is there.
So we need somebody to volunteer to go first. If you want to talk, make sure that you click on the raise your hand sign and I will bring you off of mute.
So working remotely, hey, we've got some folks, so excellent.
Oh,
Thank
here
you.
we go. Okay. I'm going to invite Veda Jackson. Veda, remember to, you might need to unmute your own phone.
Okay.
Oops.
Excellent. Hi, Veda.
Hi, I'm Beta Jackson. I'm with the Center for the Visually Impaired. And what we have been doing, or what I have been doing, is I've been working by telephone with my clients. Um, we have been continuing to do some online job searching with some of them. But with many, some of the things that they have discussed with me that they are not necessarily comfortable with considering anything where they might have to get out and they want to continue the social distancing. So they're, not wanting interviews or anything like that. So we've also been working on topics such as refining some of their interviewing skills. We've been working on refining what we would call the elevator speech if they ever get an opportunity to talk with an employer, how they can present themselves and what their skills are and so on, and how to discuss their disabilities. And that so far seems to be working with most of my clients. I've had a couple of them who've asked to be placed on hold until we get through this emergency, and then they want to resume their services. So.
Right, right. And that's a great share. Thank you so much. It is a great time to have that discussion about how to disclose a disability and when's the appropriate time, and some of that language around that, and getting people more comfortable. And that's certainly a discussion that can be led over the phone. So are you doing this primarily by phone, you said?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Excellent.
All right, so I'm going to invite William McKeever to join us now.
Hi, Allison. Hi, Guinevere. Can you hear me?
Hi, William. I can.
Oh, okay. That's great. My name is William McKeever. I'm from the Academy of Glengarry. We're a clubhouse program for adults with mental health diagnosis in Sarasota. And one of the things that we've been using, two vehicles we've used to stay connected to our community. One is a private instant messenger called Slack, which is free for smaller organizations unless you use up a lot of storage space. So it's been highly useful for us, for our members and staff to communicate together and share. And it's really, I think, helped reduce the isolation that some of our members are feeling. And the other, we've been doing our vocational training meetings through Zoom. And that's also worked out well. The previous caller also mentioned kind of some interview prep and some vocational training that we're able to do in a group setting over Zoom. So those two vehicles have worked really well for us. Our challenge has been, we didn't have a lot of ramp up time, so some of our members don't have the technology at home, either the phone or the internet access to use either of those vehicles. So that's been our challenge. So I don't know if anybody has any suggestions on resources that might be available for folks, for us to do some purchasing around both Wi-Fi or internet access, or actually equipment, phones or computers. But that's what we've been doing. And by and large, I think it's been working well for the members that have that kind of access.
Thank you, William, so much. Yes, and if someone has an idea around that technology response, you can enter that into the Q&A. You can also address it if you have your hand raised and you're called upon. So think of suggestions there for William around that technology connection with consumers who don't have that are in the community that need attention. So thank you, William, so much. Great to have you on the call.
Right, I am going to invite Susan Morantes to join us.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, I
can.
Hey, Guinevere. Hey, Allison.
Hi.
This is great. This is great. Well, yeah, I was going to talk a little bit just about what we're doing. We have Merino Campus. I'm Susan Morantes from the Dan Marino Foundation, and we have Merino Campus, which is a post-secondary school for young adults with autism and other developmental disabilities. And so we teach industry certifications, social skills, employability skills, and then they also do internships. Obviously, right now our struggle is to find the internships and how that's going to work a little bit later on. We see obviously delaying that process unless we can do some things online. But the students right now are doing very well with Zoom and Slack. They've got their classes every day. We've had a few technical glitches, but more or less that's worked out pretty well. What we did as far as with the computers, we were fortunate to have some computers that we could loan them to work for those students that don't have it. So early on, it was delivered to them. And I'm not sure, but I believe that Comcast and possibly AT&T are offering some kind of free Wi-Fi services. I don't know specifically about that, but I believe that that was something that we did resource for our students. The other thing that we do as well is our virtual interactive training agent, which is called Vita, and it's using avatars to practice interviewing skills. We have just gotten that where we're getting ready to release that online. So any of the employment agencies or, employment support personnel that are working with people virtually, it may be something that they'd want to be able to access. So my suggestion with that is just to, let me know. My email is smorantes@danmarinofoundation.org, or Guinevere knows us very well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'll see if I can connect you up with our, tech person to see how people can access that, because we certainly want it to, get out there.
That'd be a great resource for folks because it's certainly a remote system that really lends itself to that capability, and you all had really been working on making that available on that broader spectrum. So that's really great, Susan. Thank you.
Okay.
And yes, I can push that out. And William, we also had a response from Jody Ellis saying that the local library and their area was lending out technology equipment such as laptops, so that might also be a resource. And even if your local library is closed, there still might be a point person in the local government that might be able to assist with getting that. So that might be another way to track that down.
Great. So I'm going to invite Karen Levy, who also put a note in the Q&A that Spectrum has been offering 60 days of internet access for free. So maybe she can tell us a little bit more about that.
Hi, Karen.
Karen, can you hear us? You might need to unmute on your end.
There's a little pop-up button that comes up. It might also be in the far left-hand corner. Can you hear us? We'll give you just a moment to sort that out, maybe.
Okay, yeah, and I'm going to invite Whitney.
We'll come back to you, Karen.
Yeah, we will. We won't forget you. I'm going to invite Whitney Mickelson to speak.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm Whitney. I work with Best Buddies Florida in our jobs department. And we've been doing a lot of remote check-ins with our participants and our employers, usually over the phone. They're all very tech savvy already, so text messaging even sometimes works really well. But what we've been working on as a team is delivering services and webinars and virtual trainings for our participants who might be at home during this time, and trying to help them keep their skills fresh. So we've been developing those this week. We had our first kind of like test run on Monday, and it went really well. We had a lot of participation. And so this week we're working out the kinks, and we'll be rolling out 14 virtual trainings for our employment consultants to use throughout the state, and kind of target where the participant is in the job search process. So if they're just beginning to search for their jobs, they'll be doing resume building, interview skills, things like that. And then if they've been in a job for a while, we're going to fine tune their skills and focus on appropriate workplace conversations, advancing your career, and things like that.
Great. So how long are these trainings?
We've decided to shorten them down. We find that in our test run, we found that that first one was a little bit long. And so you really can kind of keep the attention at about a 30-minute window. So that's what our goal is.
Okay. All right. And there are going to be multiples of these in different locations, or a series in each location?
Yeah, so I can only speak for Orlando. We have a schedule put together for the 14, offering about 2 a week. But the other areas are going to target target their areas depending on what they feel their participants need as well. So they're available, and then we're just kind of rolling them out based on need.
Okay, that sounds really good. Nice content.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to give Karen a try again. Karen, can you hear us?
I think she just fell off, but if you recognize Rita, she is also
Yep.
from the same organization.
Okay. Let me see. All right, Rita.
I still see the mute button there,
Yep.
Rita.
I think you might hear me now.
We do
We do.
hear you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I feel like one of those commercials. Yeah,
Welcome.
Karen has been having issues, but you know that she's right on top of all of this. She's had our online learning, and perhaps about 50% of our staff are working already remotely. But the most exciting part is that we launched our online certificate-based education on Monday. And every time I find that this situation is taking me down, I just look at some of these little videos I'm seeing from the students who are so happy to be with their teachers and proceeding down the path to employment that they chose. That we want to expand this more, particularly the CLA certification that we're offering, which is Certified Logistics Associate Training, that we think might be really helpful for some folks getting these warehouse jobs in Amazon, et cetera, that are that seems to be bursting. So I know Karen wanted to talk about that, and she wanted to also talk about, you know, how best do we serve people in employment settings now, given that we cannot interact the way we used to be able to, that everything is so constrained. I know I'm no Karen, but I think that's some of the things she wanted to cover.
Right, and I think you brought up a really good point there in that getting some feedback. Allison, could you mute her?
Yeah, I will do that. Okay.
But the really good feedback there from Rita was, as you're moving forward to these trainings and collecting the positives, so you're still interacting, she's still able to provide some services, and when she's feeling low, she's going back to those real-time success stories and videos and shares from the students that are still able to pursue some of their goals, and they're keeping their goals close. And when things are looking, you know, it's not necessarily an easy time to be thinking about going to get a job, but if you can think about everything that's going really well for you and some of your goals, and you can keep those close, then you'll be moving forward. So that's really an important point, but that also virtual learning can continue on. And Susan talked about that, and Best Buddies was talking about that. So that's really important. So, and let's see, so looking for raised hands. So please do share. I know that April Santos has a lot that they've been doing over in Jacksonville, and Georgiana in Orlando. So please raise your hands and share. Jody, I heard you on the chat, but I know there's a lot going on in Broward as well. So we're going to be pulling some of you off of mute and calling on you.
Oh, we just had a raised hand. Okay, April. April.
You may have to unmute on the box that pops up. Give her just one more second.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
technology's great. Okay.
April, are you there? April? See, I see her microphone going on and off. We will circle back to April in just a moment. Allison, do you want to move it ahead towards the connections slide? That was another one that was equally interesting to everybody that was on the call. So I found you all a graphic where everybody is equidistant from each other. So maintaining our social distancing even as we talk remotely. But it's really important as we move forward to keep our connections going in the community. Folks may be harder to get a hold of, but you may also find that they might be easier to get a hold of. So as they move through what they're doing, they may actually have some more time for you to discuss. So asking somebody in human resources right now for position openings or things like that may not be the right really ask, but how do you have a conversation with them that starts to open up the door for what do you see coming up? What are ways that we can support your business? What are maybe some of the upcoming issues that your organization might have when they do come back online? What are some of the positions that you might be able to forecast for the future? And how could we best prepare some of the folks that we are interacting with to be of assistance? So there are new ways that we are going to be making connections, but we also need to keep the connection with clients and with partners. And I know that Deborah Webb down in Miami has done a lot with this. And I think we might have April on the line. Is that April?
Hello?
Hey, April.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. I'm sorry about the technology issues.
That's okay. Could you share something about working remotely or about connections in the community and all the work that you all are doing in Jacksonville to keep that going?
April, are you there?
She has faded out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. We're all learning.
I know that Deborah Webb was on the call and Georgina Tynes and Jody.
I don't see Deborah. I see Georgina and Jody. Oh, somebody else just raised their hand. Georgina. Okay.
Hi, Georgina.
Hi, yes, it's Georgina. Hi. Hold on. I'm gonna unmute myself. Okay, hi, can you
sound
hear me
good?
now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yes, I'm on the call as well as Mike and Ginger from Lighthouse Central, Florida. And we've been also working 100% remotely, providing instructional services using either Skype and other digital like learning platforms. And so services are continuing. I mean, we are making it work. And I know I have some other, like I said, colleagues that might want to also add in as well.
Yeah, Mike, I know that you've really been addressing some of these things as well. So you want to share a little bit? Is he there with you, Georgina?
He's not directly with me, but I know he's
Okay.
listening in. So he
All
might
right.
be having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Mike Walsh. Is it Mike Walsh?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I will invite him to join us now.
I still see the microphone muted there, Mike.
I think he needs to unmute it on his side.
So I just want to ask you all a few questions. So about your connections and have you been able to connect with new community resources, transportation options? How is that going? Because there are still some people that are working still, and there's some hiring that's even still happening. We've heard a lot about Amazon and about Publix. And how do you navigate that with your consumers and your clients that you're working with, how do you help them decide whether or not they are in a high risk category to continue working or whether they feel good about working? So those are all interesting questions as people move forward in these next couple of weeks for those that are working, and there are a few businesses that are open and some that are even hiring more. What does it look like to support somebody on the job that may be working during kind of an essential services only crisis response? And so helping a lot of our clients move through that space is difficult. So Jody, I see your hand is raised. You may have to unmute yourself, Jody, in that left-hand corner. There's a mute bar. Allison, do you want to go on to the next slide? Because it lends us to the conversation as well. So these are some of the resources that we have found around the state of Florida that may be of assistance to you all. The Edith Bush Institute for Philanthropy and Nonprofit Leadership at Rollins College, they have a tremendous amount of resources that are on that page. And they are both, it's a wide segment of Central Florida that they're really looking at, but also on a national perspective. So there's some really big picture national federal responses that they have really explained there, but also a lot of resources for Central Florida. So I really encourage you to make use of that. And then we have a lot of community foundations in different corners of Florida that are really moving forward with some responses and some grants in their local area. And so even if you haven't received funds from one of these organizations, it'd be really important to connect with them because you might be eligible for a grant from them in one of their fund categories, even if you don't have a past history. So what they all have in common are community surveys that are there, and that'll give you an opportunity to list some of the needs that you're seeing in particular for that community. And then they take a look at your responses and try to match you up to a fund that might be able to meet your needs. So connect with your local community resources.
Oh, I can't hear you.
I think we had somebody join us.
Yeah, somebody is joining us, and I'm trying to figure that out.
It might be Mike.
You're looking for?
I'm not sure. We also have, there is a helpline. So Florida Blue has partnered with New Directions Behavioral Health, and this is a statewide hotline. You do not have to be a member of Florida Blue to access this, but they have somebody that can work with you to really talk through the crisis. It's bilingual, toll-free helpline. I believe it's 24/7, and they can, 24 hours there, and they can help you kind of walk through the feelings of stress, anxiety, and grief. There's grief that comes in a lot of different forms, and that can also come from losing your job, and it can really help both you, your fellow coworkers, but also any of the clients that you're interacting with. And vocational rehabilitation counselors are still working and reaching and working with clients in a remote setting. So they should reach out, you should reach out, keep those connections going. You may have to leave a message or an email. You may have to set up a time to have a conversation on the phone, but VR is still working. And there are virtual career fairs that are happening around the state. Career Source is leading a lot of those. Some of the United Ways are also working on these. So it's important to reach out to those different organizations. I think we have somebody on the line, Allison. Do you know who that might be?
I can't figure it out. I don't see anybody's open mic, so we might be getting somebody from somewhere else.
All right, sounds good.
We can give Jody one more try and see if that works.
All right, can you guys
hear Jody?
Yes, yay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Sure. So the resource list that you guys have on the slide is great, and we have tapped into that. I work for ARC Broward, and we're in Southeast Florida, primarily in Broward County. And we do have a local career source virtual career fair coming up at the end of this week that we're connecting our individuals with. And I think that's kind of the point that I wanted to make, is I really feel that our partners, whether they be funding partners or other community service organizations, everyone has done such a great job with developing resources and bringing information together. And that really has been our key, is really just to connect those that we're working with to these resources that already exist in our area. So we have found other resources even through Children's Services Council. They're putting out information that applies to the adults that we serve as well. And I wanted to just mention that we have seen from, it's from the National Disability Institute. It's been going around from our Children's Services Council, as well as NDI, and it's a brief or a information resource list about promoting financial resiliency for people with disabilities during COVID-19. So that was just something that we are just disseminating yesterday and today, actually. So those are just some of the resources that we're building into. And really in terms of connecting with employers or individuals, right now we're just exploring and investigating which platform works best for which entity. So some of the folks that we serve, we're really communicating solely by phone and text, but others who either have the technology or technical assistance available to access the technology, we're trying to use whether it be FaceTime or Skype or Duo or Remind app is another app that we're using. We're not able to use it across the board because it just depends on, you know, who else can. We have to make sure that the receiver can also use the same system that we're using. So we're really using quite a variety of different tools to make those connections with our different stakeholders.
Oh, that's really great, Jody. Could you send me that link to the financial resiliency that you were speaking of, and then we can add it to that resource page and get that shared out? That'd be really wonderful.
Sure.
That is really important. And you talked about the different resources from your children's councils. Those are really good, and there are a variety of different organizations around the state that have really banded together to bring that resources to people in children's councils. And oftentimes your children's council will go up to the age of 18 or even 22. So there may be some information that is crossover. It's age neutral. So tap into those resources as well. Thank you.
So Karen Levy has given me her phone number, and I'm going to try and pull her off that way, see if that works.
Okay. Karen,
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Hi. So this is Krista Wright. I'm speaking for Karen. Sorry, I joined by the phone and I tried to get in earlier, but it's technology.
It's okay. It's all right.
So a couple of things that we found really useful as far as, getting into contact with the people that we work with and the students is we've utilized Google Classrooms, which is nice because you can do Google Hangout, you can upload any presentation slides that you may have, you can do chat rooms, you can do video classes. So it's a really nice platform that allows you to do multiple things, and it just requires a Google email. So that's been something that our students have really enjoyed. The other thing that we found useful is for those who may have a little bit more difficulty with working on a computer, developing a YouTube channel, and all of this is free. So with the YouTube channel, we've been able to, either create our own videos or upload videos to that channel. And, almost everybody has a phone or a smart TV or a laptop maybe, but those YouTube videos can, have content that relates to either, professional attire or searching for jobs, or, even job skills related kind of teaching moments. So that's been really helpful for us to continue to stay engaged with our students and just touch base with them. Even if it's just, once a day, just to kind of let them know that, we're in this together, and that they still have that community interaction, and there's still forward movement to achieving their goals, and they're connected in some kind of way. So I don't know if that is helpful or not, but it's something that we found to be useful.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. Is that a closed YouTube channel, or is it available? Okay, so how do we find you?
I can send you the link, or I can get that information to you. Absolutely.
All right. And you're from the McDonald Training Center.
I am. Yes, it's Krista.
Yeah. All right. Right.
Yes.
So
and,
people could Google up that McDonald Training Center off the YouTube channel, and they might find you that way as well.
Yeah. Okay. I can find out for that. I think right now, at the moment, we are working with our art videos. With the certificate programs, we really have focused on Google Classroom, and we do utilize Zoom meetings as well, but for the most part, it's been within Google. And as I mentioned, just kind of transferring our curriculum, downloading the PowerPoint presentations for each area. We have the IC3 and the Microsoft and the CLA, as Rita mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. So, and then also a huge portion of the online classroom is soft skills. Mm-hmm. So with the Google Classroom, it's almost like you can create like a McDonald Training Center classroom with individual classes or subject matters really that are taught by, separate staff members. And so with the soft skills, that's really going and diving into, appropriate work conversations, interpersonal relationships, conflict resolution, all of those types of things. So it's kind of a balance that the students are able to get. And, we've really just tried to maintain the same schedule that they have when they are at MTC in person. So it kind of makes things a little bit easier.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing.
So I will definitely send you that link. Thank you.
All right. Super. Allison, if we could call on Jessica Franchi Alfaro. Sure. Jessica, I'm going to call on you. I really wanted you to talk about, I know you all are still looking at it, but just how the discussion goes for maybe having internships that are remote. What does that look like? What are some of the early discussions that you might have had around that? If you're able to come off of mute and talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So we are still, as Guinevere mentioned, we're doing some preliminary work. So
and you're from Miami-Dade College.
Yes,
right?
from Miami-Dade College. Yes.
Gotcha.
So to be frank, we've basically worked on taking our departments fully online for the last 2 weeks. And so I think this week has really been the opportunity to have these conversations again and connect with the sites where we had placed students. So basically, Miami-Dade College has piloted an on-campus internship program for the students that we are serving through the Able Trust. And so, to be honest, what we have found is that it's been very challenging for departments to even come up with remote work for their part-time staff members. So it's been an additional challenge to try to find remote work for the interns that we had placed in their departments. Luckily, there are some departments that are able to facilitate remote work, but then there are some that have not been able to find anything for the interns to do, and they've asked if the interns can return in the summer, which is a good thing, but we did want to give them some kind of an experience. So what I would like to do at this point is possibly make sure that the remote internships are set up and then give students who were originally in placements an opportunity to maybe complete some training online that would still be part of an internship process, right? So more of like that continuing education piece on career readiness, so that they don't miss out on everything that they could have gotten from an internship for the spring semester. As it is, I think that everybody's going through a difficult time trying to transition to fully online courses, and I do anticipate everyone's technology needs are met for the most part, because MDC has been giving out laptops as loaners to all of our students. We've had 3 different pickup days, and so that's been pretty successful. And I anticipate technology won't be a challenge now that all of that is in place, and now we are ready to look at how we can take it online for those students who unfortunately had their internships cut because of our remote work environment.
Right. And I think going forward, when we look at developing job placements, I think this is just the start of having that conversation of what it is to look like, what it looks like to work remotely, whether that's an internship or a job placement. And I think as we move forward, there will be opportunities to develop internships that might be remote in nature. This is probably just the beginning of really having that conversation and seeing what works for everybody, and making this an area that perhaps can be more in development on purpose as we move forward, and developing different options for people to achieve employment. So it'll be interesting. And this early work that you're doing, even though through its crisis, I think is going to really mark some ability there. So that'll be really exciting to see.
Yeah, and I do think that, just to add one final thought, I do think because everything is becoming more automated, not really by choice, right? Because we're being thrust into this new reality. I think that there will be a lot more opportunities for remote work that will develop from this time once everything's even like settled. And I think that students will benefit from learning how to navigate that, as you mentioned, for future work opportunities.
Right. Well, certainly the one thing this has taught us all is how to be flexible and to adjust as we move forward. So it's been some skill building we maybe were not really ready for, but there we are. We're right in the thick of it. Yeah. So thank you, Jessica. Well, I think we're going to go on to the next slide there, Allison. So as we move forward, let me just take a look. Here we had people introduce ourselves. I just wanted to make sure we weren't losing any questions. All right, great. As you grow in this space and of operating remotely, take note of the things that might be working well. And there's a heightened focus right now around communication with our partners, our resources, employers. Have you connected now with someone that has been difficult to get on the phone? Have you taken the time to expand your own communication skills? We've talked a little bit today about how to expand our students' ability to interact, but are we doing the same for ourselves so that we can be better in the jobs that we're doing? So take note of what is working well, and when things are all settled down and you might be back in your own office, you know, these new skills are going to show up there. So it's going to be really important to capture the things that have gone well. We tend to think of this as a more stressful time where a lot of things aren't going right, but there are some things that we want to capture that are positive from this. And the next slide. With that, we're going to wind down our talk time. Please know that all of us at the Able Trust are here for you. Please reach out if you need to talk. I've talked with many of you over the last 2 weeks, either by phone or by email, and it's really been a pleasure to hear about what you're tackling and have the opportunity to brainstorm different solutions, and I really appreciate that. I want to continue to have conversations around how to support employment and to meet the grant goals. Many of you have grants as closely as possible. And if it has to be something different, what does that look like? And what new layer can we add to this that's really positive for everybody? We're really happy to create this space for you to share and learn more from each other. And you're definitely going to hear more from us. And please use this as a resource. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really great conversation. After this webinar closes, you will receive a link to a super short survey. Please take a moment to give us some feedback. And additionally, that slide of resources that you saw is also listed after that survey. This has been our very first talk time. So your feedback's really important to us as we move forward and develop these for you. So other subjects that you would like to hear about, we want to hear from you all. So Allison and I and everyone at the Able Trust say goodbye for now, but we wish you health and safety, and thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Stay safe all.